What's going on YouTube? HB Tech Global here with another TryHackMe video. Today we'll be going through part 2 of the common attacks. Let's go ahead and get started, guys. I don't want to waste no time. We'll just go ahead and get it out the way for you guys. So task 4 will be malware and ransomware. Overview. Despite the steady advance of antivirus software solutions, malware and ransomware is ever-growing threat. Malware is short for malicious software, can be defined as any software designed to perform malicious attack on behalf of an attacker. There are many different kinds of malware. We'll be focused on the generic malware and ransomware in this task. Once installed, attackers commonly use malware to steal information, cause damage, and execute arbitrary commands on the affected system. Malware is often used to perform a set of tasks referred as a command and control, or C2 or C and C. C2 malware connects back to a waiting server to allow an attacker to control the affected system remotely, often incorporating many simple tasks as key login as built into the malicious software. Often incorporating many simple tasks such as key login as built-in parts of the malicious software. Ransomware, a special a specialized class of malware. Ransomware is used to affect as many systems as possible, encrypting the data on the devices and holding it to ransom if the victims pay the attacker within a time frame, usually via a cryptocurrency such as Bitcoin. The data is directly returned. Ransomware Ransomware usually spread by exploiting known vulnerabilities in commonly installed software like Microsoft Windows operating systems. It can be extremely fast spreading once an infection begins and can demand millions in ransomware. The goal of ransomware attacks is to infect as many systems as possible, then make as much data accessible as possible by encrypting it with a key known only to the attacker. Once the attack is completed, the malware is usually displayed or usually displays a window that looks something like this. Okay, cool. Let me run this part back and do it better. A specialized class of malware, ransomware, is used to affect as many systems as possible, encrypting the data on the devices and holding it to ransom. If the victim pays the attacker within a set time frame, usually via a cryptocurrency such as Bitcoin, the data is directly returned. Ransomware usually spread by exploiting known vulnerabilities in commonly installed software, for example, like Microsoft Windows operating system. It can be extremely fast spreading once the infection begins and can demand millions of dollars in ransom money. The goal of ransomware attacks is to affect as many systems as possible, then make as much data inaccessible as possible by encrypting it with a key known only to the attacker. Once the attack is complete, the malware usually display a window that is something like this. Oops, your file has been encrypted. What happened to my computer? Your important files are encrypted, meaning your documents, photos, and videos, database, and other files are no longer accessible because they have been encrypted. Maybe you're busy looking for a way to recover your files, but do not waste your time. No, nobody can recover your files without our decryption service. Can I recover my files? Sure, we guarantee that you can recover all your files safely and easily, but you have not so enough time. You can try to decrypt some of your files for free. Try now by clicking decrypt. If you want to decrypt all your files, you need to pay. You only have 3 days to submit the payment. After that, price will be double. Also, if you don't pay in 7 days, you won't be able to get your files back for forever. How do I pay? Bitcoin, accept here. Send $300 worth of Bitcoin to this address. That's not that bad. Got a timer. Got what time left. Also, payment will rise on this date, this time. Cool. Files will be lost. Cool. That's a lot of time and effort put into that. That's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and keep going. Just want to give victims the time limit and instructions on how to pay, as well as a rundown of what exactly has happened to their data. The example above is from the infamous WannaCry ransomware. That's cool. So let's keep going. With the ransom paid, the malware or may not decrypt the data and self-destruct, depending entirely on how nice the attacker are. That's terrible. Let's keep it going. Delivery methods. Delivery methods. There are various ways that an attacker can affect the target with malware. Many of these revolve around revolve around social engineering phishing attack. For example, attacker may send a victim an email containing a Microsoft Word or Excel file that contains a malicious macro, a code that is embedded inside the document set to run when the user opens the file. These will not run by default unless the user clicks the Enable Content button at the top of the screen to enable macros. Security warning macros have been disabled. Enable content. Okay, that's interesting. I'm tracking. However, there are situations in which a user may genuinely wish to execute macros, and a good attacker will capitalize on these pretexts to convince the victim to click the button. Similarly, the attacker may send the file as a compile execute, a PDF, a PowerShell script, a a batch script, an HTML application file, or even a JavaScript file to be executed by the JavaScript interpreter built into Windows. Ensure there are many different ways and formats in which an attacker can send code to a victim. Once the code is executed, the infection begins. Alternatively, the attacker may execute a vulnerability in public-facing infrastructure in the corporate environment, for example, a web server, thus giving themselves an opening into the internal network and allowing them to start a larger attack facilitated by the malware. Staying safe. Staying safe from malware and ransomware in particular is best done with a combination of awareness and keeping things up to date. Always accept updates and patches when offered, especially in important software like operating system. Updates often contains fixes to security flaws, so it's important to get these in place as soon as possible. Never click on suspicious links, especially in email. Try not to open file attachments if possible. If a message looks suspicious, delete it, forward it to the appropriate team if you're using a work account. Always be on the lookout for people trying to get you to download or run files, especially over email or instant messaging. Never plug unknown media devices like USB drives, USB devices into important computers. If you find a device in public, do not plug it into your work laptop. Always back up important data. This will be discussed in detail later in the room and can be crucial for recovering from a ransomware attack. Make sure that your antivirus software is up to date and activated. Note: if you or your business get infected with ransomware, do not pay the ransom. Instead, call the local authorities immediately and try to contain the infection by disabling your router or otherwise physically preventing the affected device from connecting to anything else. Do not power the affected device off, as this can sometimes destroy any potential opportunities to decrypt the data without paying. What currency did the WannaCry request payment in? Oh, well, you want me to do research? Okay, no worries. Oh wait, hold on. I knew that. I didn't have to do research. I'm sorry. I didn't have to do research. It said which currency research. I didn't go look. Yeah, the research is in here. It's at the beginning, right here. Cryptocurrency. Yeah, and the day will be directly returned. Well, we answered that one. That was pretty easy, pretty straightforward. Let's go ahead and view the site. That's a decent amount of reading. Let's go ahead and get this one out the way. Let's go, guys. Task 5. Passwords and authentication. Overview. For better or worse, passwords are an integrated part of most authentication systems. We use passwords to protect everything from our social media accounts to our banking application. Unfortunately, despite their significant importance, it is still all too easy to create and use an insecure password, even easier to take action that lower the overall security of the system. For example, even the most robust password in the world is useless if written on a whiteboard in few view of a webcam, especially if the password is used for more than one service. This test will cover password security as well as other measures you can take to strengthen your overall authentication security. What makes a password strong? Advice on what constitutes a strong password has changed over time. In the past, people were advised to use complex passwords that was easy to remember. For example, this right here. The password above is a collection of lowercase and uppercase characters, including symbols and numeric digits. It is over 8 character long, making it almost impossible to hack by brute force. With our current level of technology, it is created using technology that is unlikely to be held by anyone other than the owner of the password. Importantly, it also does not conform to normal patterns using unusual symbols. It's changing only some characters of L33T speak. So like stuff it don't have those. Only some characters. Let me see. Oh yeah, like the one instead of an I, A instead. Well, you just probably put that just for a special character. You only have one. Yeah, I know like when they have like the E instead of a three, a zero instead of a O. Can't think of some other ones right now, but you know, I mean, yeah, E step three, O step, oh, a zero step of a O, Z step S. That's kinda common, not really, I guess, but that's another one I guess you can add in there. Anyway, in containing a date range as opposed to a single date, making it harder to guess. For all intended and purposes, this is a traditionally strong password. That said, the personal connection means that this password could potentially still be weakened or weaker through social engineering or in-depth information gathering on target. Yeah, like knowing the year that the target was born, I guess. But 1988 to 2000 exclamation mark at the end. That's pretty smooth, but it still look like it's a name. So I guess there is probably some way you can figure that out. Current best practices lean more towards length and complexity. For example, Vim is obvious, and this is the best text editor in existence. By using a paraphrase rather than a traditional password, the password is significantly longer, still retaining some of the more complex elements despite not looking quite so, don't know that word, of don't know it. This is, let's look up what this word is. I'm sorry. Let me see. Search. Past tense. Despite not looking so past tense, I don't understand right. This has the advantage of being easier to remember, still being incredibly difficult to brute force. Ideally, however, you should use long and completely random passwords. For example, yeah, that seems like it would be, yeah, for sure. These take millions of years to crack and objectively the most secure option available. The drawback is usability, however. This is largely mitigated by using a password manager, which will be discussed in the next task. What makes a password weak? What makes a weak password? People often go for a simple password that means something for them. Often following a separate pattern. For example, a commonly used password is a name, location followed by a year, followed by an exclamation mark. For example, yeah, super easy. This is enough to satisfy most password complexity requirements. Lowercase, uppercase, over 8 characters containing numeric digits and a symbol, a special character. However, it's trivial to guess if an attacker know that you have a son who was born in 2012. This kind of password inherently is extremely insecure. In short, any password that can be easily guessed by someone who know you relatively well. This includes an attacker looking at your social media is a bad idea. Equally, short passwords, especially those that don't contain any alphabetical characters, are weak against brute force attacks. We will look more in depth later in these tasks or in this task. Of equal importance to password strength is password reuse. You can have the strongest password in the world, but if you use it across numerous accounts and it get leaked, an attacker can simply use the same strong password on all affected accounts. Equally, if you find out that your password has been exposed, you will have a lot of work to do changing all your passwords, or change all your account passwords, expose passwords. Unfortunately, not every service store passwords securely, making it doubly important that you reuse passwords. So what happens if a service get hacked and their database containing your user information get leaked? As base case scenario, the service has used a secure hashing algorithm and have a strong password. In this case, your password is safe. But if your email address or username may still, oh, but your email address or username may still be leaked publicly. So expect some spam emails. As worst case scenario, your plain text password is immediately available or is either immediately available or is available for attackers to find. If this happens, then both your username and password are known to the attacker, allowing them to take over your account and perform credential stuff in attacks. Using your stolen username and password pair against the other services to see if you reuse them elsewhere. These leaked databases containing credentials frequently appear on the dark web, which lead us to our final point in this section: data exposure notification services. The largest and well-known data exposure checker is called Have I Been Pawned. It exists as a free online service that scans data dump and catalog all of the information found, allowing users to enter their email address to see if they have been included in any breaches. Have I been pawned also allows you to add yourself to a notification list, meaning that you have received an email notifying you if your email has appeared in any data breaches. Non-perfect defense. Notification services give you vital early warnings to change your password, hopefully before you get hacked. Password attacks. An attacker has few options when it comes to attacking passwords and authentication systems. Some attackers are entirely local, working entirely on a device owned by the attacker while interacting with the target service at all. Others are remote attackers involving the original server. Local attacks require a stolen copy of the credentials in question. The attacker would take a file full of stolen username emails and hash passwords, then use software to effectively try to guess the input that create the hash, either using randomly generated sequence of characters, slower but more thorough, or using pre-generated word lists of possible passwords faster but much more likely to miss things. Hybrid types are also widely used. These are when an attacker takes an existing word list, emulate it to add new characters, symbols, or random elements. Local password attacks will be demonstrated in the interactive element for this task. Remote attackers tend to be one of the two categories. They either involve attempting to brute force known passwords or usernames by sending requests to the server and seeing what the response or will respond with, or they will use known username password pair from previous breaches to see if they are valid on the target site. This is aforementioned credential stuffing. Put yourself in the shoes of a malicious hacker. You have managed to dump the password database for an online service, but you still have to crack those hashes. Click the go button to start. Based on content of the website, you have generated a list of likely password, which is as here. Copy list of password into the password list field and click go. Here, password list. Click go. Look at the current word hash selection in the hash cracker. Notice that for each word in the list you enter, the cracker is creating an inmate hash of the word, then comparing it to the target hash. If the two hash match the password defined. The hash cracker should find the password that matched the target very quickly. Was the password TryHackMe 123. I didn't even want you to do it, so I'm gonna do it again. Okay, let me do it again. Watch you do it. Hopefully you do it again. No, okay, I see how to do it. This is a very simple browser-based example. However, in reality, local hash cracking with word list isn't any more complex from a high-level perspective. It's the same technique, but with a lot more potential passwords. Hopefully, this example illustrates why it is so important to choose a strong password, even the password are hashed appropriately. In the next step, we will look at some common accounts protection measures, as well as how to generate some secure passwords. So this one don't have I do have a question for us. I don't just have nothing for us to look at. So let's remove that. Let's go through this really quick. I don't know how long we've been recording. I was gonna see how long this video is so far. Guys, we'll just see how long it is. Just go ahead and finish this one out. Multi-factor authentication, MFA. Multi-factor authentication is a term used to describe any authentication process where you need more than one thing to log in. The most common example of this is when you enter the password for an account, then get asked for a 6-digit code that is sent to your phone. It usually expires after 15 minutes or so. This is particularly the second authentication factor, is referred to as a time-based